big beard.
Hey, Kayla.
Hi, Iyanna.
Welcome to Fill in the Blank podcast.
Welcome.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another week at Fill in the Blank podcast.
Pew, pew, pew.
I thought you was going to say fill in the blank.
I
You said pew, pew, pew.
I was going to, and then I was like, nah, the wind is blowing in another direction. So I said, pew, pew.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, okay. There's a pause there.
Because I'm back to work. Today is my first day back at work.
How long have you been out for? A week?
Yeah, practically. So on Monday and Tuesday, I had to go into work, but it was the kids weren't there. It was parent-teacher conferences. Have you ever heard of parent-teacher conferences being 2 days?
What, do they split it up?
Yes.
Do all the parents have to show up both times?
No.
Oh, well then that makes sense.
But why would you do it the week of Thanksgiving?
That don't make sense.
That was so messed up. And it was practically empty. And I came and didn't nobody come and see me. Didn't nobody want to see me. I felt like I should have opened up like a schedule. And if nobody
then you
booked
didn't
me,
have to go.
I should have been like, nobody wants to see me.
That kind of makes sense. Maybe you learn your lesson for next year.
But no. First of all,
I just wanted to throw it
there
out
won't
there.
be a next year.
I just want to throw it out there.
There won't be a next year at the school. No.
Okay.
But that's just crazy. They wouldn't let me do that even if I did do that.
Really? Oh, well, I guess you got
it's the control. We need you.
Yeah.
Violet's in there cutting up.
Oh,
yeah, and I got a cat.
Yeah, Kayla got a cat and she's already hating it.
I just think that
I don't think Kayla's a cat or a pet owner.
That's what I think is
At
more
heart.
so is. I think that I love animals. I love pets. I love all kinds of animals and pets. But when it disrupts my peace,
Which is often.
I literally, when I went to counseling on last Tuesday, I spent the whole hour talking about the cat.
Wow, Kayla.
In counseling.
Wow.
And my counselor was asking me, why is this such a threat to me? Like, why is this triggering me so bad?
Yeah.
And I was like, I think it's because my work life isn't peaceful. So then when I come home and I still don't have peace and I have her like.
I mean, she's just another thing that's requiring something of you. So I get it.
The capacity is just very limited.
That's all right. Maybe you're just not a pet owner at heart.
Yes, I agree. But I do love her. Like, I cuddle with her all the time.
She's so
it's
cute.
not like I'm like...
Y'all, she is the most affectionate freaking cat. And she's so sweet. She reminds me so much of Mama, but maybe a little bit more... Well, she's more affectionate with strangers.
That's what it is. She's just more upfront with her affection.
Mama
like, it takes her a couple seconds.
Yeah.
Like, let me see you. Let me smell you. Oh, okay.
Mama was that affectionate though, but with only me.
Only you. Yeah.
Which was also a lot.
Yeah.
Because she would be constantly yelling at me.
And that's the thing. I can't take the yelling. Like, she literally jumps on the bed and stares at me in the face and goes, "Meow." I'm like, what?
Mama used to escalate to the point where she'll just take her paw and just keep tapping me.
And that's her other thing. When she's cuddling, she wants to put her paw on you. Yeah. So she'll cuddle and then she'll be like, or she'll put it right in your face.
Yep.
I'm like, girl, what? Like, you want to be inside of my skin. You can't be any closer.
It's love. It's so cute.
Anyways, how are you doing?
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm really
How was your
good.
Thanksgiving?
It was good. I drove home on Wednesday. And I went to like 4 different homes. I was hopping all over the place. I got to spend time with my bio family, my other side of the family, my adoptive parents, and then I got to see the woman who raised me and kicked me out of the house.
What?
Yes, I'm in a phase in an era of reconciliation. So I've been kind of reattaching the bridge.
Yeah. So how did that go?
People. Oh, it was fine. I mean, I saw her and then right back into familiarity. So she was sick and she was like on the bed and I just went straight behind her. I just started cuddling and we just started talking. Yeah. So the issue isn't like there's no tension when we talk or anything. it's just at the end of the day, like realizing like she hasn't really changed. So like if she ever had that position in my life again, she would do the same thing. But I think I've realized like she'll never have that position in my life anymore. So I think like, I mean, it's fine to kind of accept her into my life, into the fold, but keep her at a distance.
Yeah, just like knowing the boundaries.
Yeah, and I think I'm finally finding the balance of what that looks like for me, because I haven't really had her in my life for years, despite her even trying. But I'm just like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
But now I'm back in the space where I'm like, you know what? I think I feel like healthier enough and safe and comforted within myself to kind of allow her in my space without feeling some type of way, or without being spiteful, or without feeling the pain all over again, or being untrusting, like she gonna, do her station. Like I'm just like content within myself. So I'm like, okay.
It's like that aspect that I just talked about that my counselor asked me in counseling about, like, where's the threat? Like, so being able to feel like, now that safety is within yourself and you don't have to rely on her or other people for that necessarily. So you can be like, okay, like we can have some sort of relationship, but it won't be like what it was like before, obviously.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that kind of leads into today's episode.
Oh.
Because we are talking about childhood, kind of. What a great topic.
Fun.
So this is an episode that I've been really, really wanting to do, because one of my favorite podcasts, as I have talked about before, is The Friend Zone. And they did an episode with this topic. And it's just such an interesting topic that I think that people don't often bring up, about being the good kid and the effects of growing up as the good kid and wanting to be good in your parents' eyes, and how that has impacted you in life. So my first question is, who were you as a child? Would you categorize yourself as a good kid?
I think I was for a long period of time. I think it wasn't until high school where I started to kind of buck back. But like all leading up to that, I was a really good kid. Pretty mild-mannered. Didn't really talk back a lot. Didn't really express my opinion much at all, or say no, or it's just, I was an obedient child.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
I think that falls into the category of the good child, like the child that is obedient, because of the fact that children are supposed to have a rebellious stage. Like it's quite natural, because they're trying to find their voice and they're trying to understand themselves better. But when parents don't allow it, that's where the good child syndrome comes into play. I think that I might have said this before, but I was definitely the good child. I was the one that just listened to what I was supposed to do and did it, talk smack behind my parents' back, but I never really said anything to them to their faces.
Yeah.
Maybe every blue moon I would muster up the courage to say something. They would put me like right back into place. So I definitely feel like I grew up with being the good child, and I can see some impacts of that today.
Don't you have a definition of like what the good child syndrome is?
I'm going to get to it in a second. But before we get there, I want to know, especially because your childhood was like you had different homes and different people that you called parents. So who did you feel the need to impress as a child?
Both. All of them. All of them. My bio mom, when I lived with her up until I was 9. Usually it was more so of, instead of like, I just wanted to be a good kid to not rock the boat. I didn't want to upset her in any way. So it was a lot of like teeter-tottering and just like reading her mood most of the time. And then like with Kim, it was like, I didn't want to disappoint her. Super strict lady.
Yeah.
And then my parents, it was also the same. I didn't want to disappoint them, but only because I felt like I owed them so much because they had taken me in. So yeah, I mean, I felt all of them.
You wanted to impress them.
Yeah, all of them to an extent, whether I leaned into that or not. But the desire was there. Even with me being rebellious, that came out of spite of that feeling. So
that's so interesting. I feel like when I was younger, I was closer with my mom's side of the family, but I didn't feel the need to impress them.
Yeah.
At all. Like,
well, did they have like a really strong impact on your life? Like like heavy, like they could make a decision and like that's it?
They could, but I think that it was just more so that they were more accepting of who I was as a person, versus growing up, my dad and my stepmom were very like strict, and I had to do things a certain way in order to feel, I guess, accepted by them at points. Yeah. That wasn't all the time, but a good chunk of my childhood, I remember it being that way. But on my mom's side, I just felt more accepted for who I was. Like, so I didn't necessarily feel like I had to go above and beyond to make them like me or feel like I had to impress them. I felt like they were just impressed with me being me. But I didn't have that as much on my dad's side of the family.
Okay. So did you feel that way toward your actual, like, for your mom herself, or was it just like that side of the family?
Nope. I didn't feel like that towards my mom. I didn't feel like I had to impress her at all. She was so very impressed with my existence alone that I literally did not have to extend myself. Like, I would do the things that made me feel happy, and she would be impressed by those things, but it wasn't my goal in doing the things that I like to impress her, if that makes sense. Like, I was never really that kid, like, I'm going to make my mom proud. Like, I'm going to make them feel proud. It was just more so like, I'm going to do what I like.
You're just being you. I feel like that's like almost good self-esteem.
It is. I mean, I think that that's what childhood should be like, but I think that so many people, especially from our generation, I feel like this upcoming generation is growing up very differently, but I think our generation was in between the parents growing out of like extremely strict parents, like, and you know, they were doing the best according to what they were given at that time, but it was still, the strictness was still like overarching, and it could be very overbearing.
Yeah. Facts.
Okay, so
that was suffocating.
Very suffocating.
Jesus.
So what do you feel like your parents' parenting style was? I feel like we talked about this before.
We have. I think with my bio mom, it was very neglectful. With Kim, it was very authoritarian. Very authoritarian. And then my parents is like a more authoritative. I think my dad alone would have been authoritarian, but with the balance of my mom is authoritative. Yeah.
So for those of you who might not know or are new here and you don't know what parenting styles are, the one that Iyanna is talking about, neglectful, or it could be called permissive, is setting rules but rarely enforcing consequences. Rarely enforcing. Consequences are rare, and child will learn best with little interference from you. The authoritative style, which is different from authoritarian, like what she was saying. Authoritative is emphasis on creating and maintaining positive relationship with, sorry, y'all, Asia's crawling on the floor. Positive relationship with child. They explain the reasons behind the rules, and they set limits, enforce rules, and give consequences, but the child's feelings are prioritized. The authoritarian, I actually didn't write down, but that's just basically that it's very strict.
I am the parent, you are the child, you don't speak.
And that's it.
What I say goes.
That's it. So it's that aspect of like, a kid asks why and the parent says because I said so. Yeah. That's what that is.
Yeah, that's that.
So I feel like I grew up on my dad's side with authoritarian. It was very much so because I said so. You're going to do what I say because I'm the parent and you're the child and you listen to me. And
I know best.
I know best because you're a kid and you don't have a brain.
Pretty much.
But on my mom's side, I think it was more... it was authoritarian, but it also leaned a little bit into permissive because my mom was like, she loved me so much that sometimes she had a hard time upholding the consequences. Like my Nana talks about it today. Like me and her almost were like sisters, like because of the fact that we were just so close. Like
that definitely sounds like permissive.
Yeah. So she would try to discipline me. And it wouldn't always work.
So what was it like, the illusion of the authoritarian, but at the core of it is just permissive?
Yeah, but the reason why I say authoritarian is because my mom did take the time to sit down and talk to me about consequences. So I grew up in the household with my mom and my nana and my papa. And so a lot of times, like, if my mom had a hard time, like, actually enforcing the rules, they would.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom would sit me down and be like, this is the reason why this is happening. Like, when you do this, it leads to this. So it's like, she had the skill sets of authoritarian, but she had a hard time, like, actually enforcing the rules, but she had help to enforce the rules. So that's why I'm like, it was a little bit permissive, but she still was very much so like, she understood that I needed consequences. It wasn't like she didn't want me to receive consequences. She just had a hard time enforcing them herself.
Okay, so authoritative grandparents and sometimes permissive mom, if left her by herself. Okay, got it. Got it.
So yeah, but that leads me to what you were asking about before. Oh wait, actually, before I go there, how did you feel about your parenting style? Did it make you feel resentful in any types of ways because of the parenting style you grew up with?
Yes. With
in
all
what ways?
of them. Literally.
Okay, go down the list.
Go on, open that cutlery.
Go down the list.
With my mom, I was resentful because I'm like, I need you to be a real mom. With Kim, it was, should I say her name? With whatever.
They don't know her last name.
They don't. With Kim, it was, I'd like to be an individual. I'd like to have a brain for myself. I'd like to have a voice. And I started to get very resentful by like middle schoolish is where it started. And then by high school, I was full blown resentful, just angry.
Just like rage mode.
Rage mode. Yeah. That's when I started talking back. And that's when like, yeah.
So you started that in high school?
I started that late high school.
Okay.
Yeah. On my way out.
Yeah.
And then with my parents, I think, you know what, maybe that wasn't resentful. I think I was just very fearful with them because of what I had experienced with Kim. So any form of like them putting their foot down or setting a boundary would like send me off the, well, it wouldn't send me, I wasn't a bad kid, but I would just be really upset about it.
Yeah.
And I'd be in my room not socializing with anybody.
I think from the ways that you've explained your relationship with your parents now, it's more so because of the fact that you didn't necessarily experience their parenting style growing up. So then once they tried to do it, you were like, I'm grown.
That's what I was saying. I did what they asked me to do because like technically like they took me in and I felt indebted to them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because it wasn't like out of some love for them or anything. I was just like, I owe you. So I feel like I have to do this.
Yeah.
At least that's how it started. And now it's like, I respect their opinion. I respect, but that's because I've had now a decade to get to know them as people. And I'm like, okay, you're good people.
Yeah.
And because of that, I love you and I respect you.
Yeah. You've developed a bond with them enough that it's like, okay, like I want to hear what you have to say now.
But moving in as an adult where I'm like, I feel like I already know myself well enough. I feel like I know what I want to do. So anything y'all got to tell me, I'm not going to listen to.
It's already hard enough, I feel like, in the teenage years because that's normally when like kids start to get very like, I'm grown vibes. So I can't imagine at that point where you're like, really,
adult.
Yeah, you're an adult.
I'm 22 years old. They're giving me a curfew. My dad is like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, it's none of your business.
Yeah, like I'm grown. We missed the stage already.
That's how I felt. Like you skipped some stages, my guy. Maybe you should take a step back.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I feel like, actually, I feel not necessarily resentful, but I have been in reflection of how those things have impacted me. So I'm not necessarily resentful is not the right word because I don't harbor the emotions, but it's just more so like, I think I was resentful of my dad for a very long time because they raised me so strict.
You felt like you had missed out on a lot?
I felt like I missed out on a lot and I felt like it stunted my confidence.
Oh my God. Heavy on the stunting your growth.
Yeah. Because of the fact that they were so strict and I had to rely so heavily on them that then when I grew into adulthood and it was like, okay, it's time for you to make your own choices now. I was just like, I can't. Like, I've gotten so many rules my entire life. Like, what do you want me to do?
You don't know how to govern yourself. You don't know how to discipline yourself. You don't know how to say no. Sometimes you don't know how to make your own choices.
All the things.
You don't know how to have direction. Like
all the things.
It fucks you up.
It really, really does. But you know what? I did start, like, now that I'm getting older and I'm thinking about, when I actually have kids, I think that I do, because I used to like romanticize the way that my mom parented me when I was younger. But now that I'm older and I think about the way that I want to parent my own children, and I see, like, I have a deeper understanding of what my dad was doing, and I have appreciation for that, as well as having appreciation for my mom, I still recognize like the weak points in that, because of the fact that I struggle with structure. And I think that struggle with structure came from these two different parenting styles that I was receiving.
Whiplash.
Yeah. And my dad was so structured that I was resentful of that, because I had a different experience on my mom's side. Like, it was very like free,
you had
like
comparison.
Yeah. Like, I was very free and I felt very confident when I was with them. Like, I would do my thing. Like, they let me go, let me have friends over. Like,
and crazy enough, in long term, that wouldn't have been good for you. All that
freedom. Yeah. And I mean, granted, I don't think that I would have had that much freedom, because my mom still wasn't like, let me do whatever type of thing. But I do see the negatives of her being kind of like a pushover. I didn't, like, when I think back to it, and I think back how I treated my dad and my stepmom versus how I treated my mom, I feel like I didn't, as a child, I didn't fully respect her. Like, I didn't respect what she said, because I knew she wasn't going to do anything. And I'm like, I don't want that type of dynamic and relationship with my children. Like, I want them to respect me. I want them to feel, it's a delicate balance, because you want them to respect you, but then you also want them to understand the boundaries and be like, okay, look, like, love you, mean it, and we can kiki, have a good time, but I'm also not your little friend. Because we got some raising to do. I feel like it's a good thing to grow to that point with your parent. Like, you can have friendship with them, but to be like to the point where you almost cross lines because you're that comfortable, I think that's where it gets a little mixy.
I think I'm not even sure if it's like friendship. I think it's good for a child to like admire their parent, to feel familiar with their parent, but friendship is like, that's another thing. Can you really be friends with somebody who can tell you, no, you can't do that?
I mean, I think
a level of respect and just like almost a boundary there for a minute. I wouldn't know, because I didn't grow up with like parents.
Yeah, I think my dad, he made that boundary very clear to me as a child. That's the reason why it's so different where we are in our relationship now. It's like we are friends. But when I was younger, he continued to say that to me. I am not your friend. Like, I want you to understand, we are not friends. Like, I have a job. I am trying to raise you into being a good person, a good human. And that is all that I care about. And I think that there is something missed in that when you don't have friendship with your child. Like, you should have a certain level of friendship. Yeah, because you want them to feel comfortable enough to come and tell you things. But if you hear, I'm not your friend, then it's like, I'm not telling you shit.
And then you constantly being reminded about it. It's like, exactly. All right, I get it.
Exactly.
I get it.
Versus my mom, I told her everything. Like, if she was alive during the time that I had like lost my virginity and all the things, like, I probably would have told her. Yeah. I probably would have been like, hey, this is what happened. So that's how close I felt with her. Okay. So
delicate balance.
Now we're going to go into finally actually giving the definition for good child syndrome, because it is a syndrome. And I didn't know that it was a whole syndrome. I just thought it was like a thing.
Could you Google this?
Yeah, I Googled it. Well, I was doing research about growing up as the good child, and I found good child syndrome. Okay. So it says good child syndrome refers to a child who aims to meet their parents' expectations the whole time and be an angel in their parents' eyes. They feel they always need to meet whatever is asked of them. They tend to work hard at keeping their parents' love and learn that bad behavior will meet their parents' disapproval. This puts in their minds that they always have to work hard for affection. And that's from teensavers.com. So did this cause you, if you feel like in ways you were the good child at some point, do you feel like it caused you to act out in private, or did you truly stick to being good?
Ooh, I was living like double lives.
That's what I was doing too.
One way in front of my parents or Kim.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was another way with like friends at church. I was another way with friends at school. Like I was having all of these separate lives.
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt too. Like I felt like I was scared. Like I didn't push the envelope too much because I knew who my parents were. And I was like, there are some things that I just cannot do because if I do this and I get found out, it's like, it's over. Like I'm over with. But I do feel like there were times that I would masterfully come up with lies to tell them because I knew that I couldn't be honest. And that also wasn't great.
I learned to lie too then. But I'd be a pretty bad liar though. But I learned to lie then, and I would lie about stupid stuff.
Me too.
Just out of fear of like getting in trouble or how she was gonna react. Like I would lie about really dumb stuff.
Yeah, but I feel like that's an effect of of the good child syndrome because of the fact that you don't necessarily feel comfortable to tell your parent the truth, even if it's not that big of a deal. You feel like you almost have to lie about everything.
I agree,
and that's how I felt. I would lie about the smallest things, like things that really should not have been that big of a deal. I would just lie about it. It was my natural inclination to lie. I was like, I can't tell them the truth. So before I would get myself in situations, I would think about all of the things that they might say to me, and I came up with comebacks to all those things.
Same.
That's so bad.
It is bad. That's why I don't lie now, because I've just learned like I can't do that.
You did too much as a child.
I did too much as a child. And then she would make me feel so dumb and stupid about it. She'd be like, why would you lie about it? That's the dumbest thing to lie about. She'd be like, that's stupid. This is the stupidest lie. And I'm like, okay.
Well, my parents would interrogate me. Like, I used to be in full-blown interrogation because I grew up with detective parents.
See, and that's what I could. If I had two Kims, I'd be like, no.
They literally used to have me sitting on the end of their bed, and they would be sitting on the opposite end facing each other. And they would talk for hours. They would talk for hours, and I would just sit there and start crying. I'd be like, I don't know what y'all want me to tell you. But I would either lie, or the alternative was I just wouldn't say anything at all.
Yeah.
So then they would ask me questions, and my only response is, I don't know.
Oh, I used to love.
Imagine how frustrating that is, because I hate that now. I'd be so pissed off if I'm asking my child a question I don't know.
That's when she started saying, "What do you know?"
Like shit, nothing.
I'm pretty sure she thought I was slow for real.
Nothing. I don't know nothing. Okay, so Teen Savers also shared that the dangers of good child, or as some call it, perfect child syndrome, is that children learn to suppress their true self, their emotions, and hold secrets away from their parents, like we just said. They are often on the receiving end of more abuse and find it hard to stand up for themselves. For some children, this can lead to a withdrawal from society because of the fear of not being good enough.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Wow. That was all of my 20s.
Yeah.
All of my 20s is learning all of that about myself.
Yeah.
And how to stop it.
I feel like it was my teen years because I was trying to like suppress myself. And I feel like I'm still being impacted by it now in ways because of the fact that I'm trying to now like undo what happened. Yeah, like I'm repairing it, and I'm trying to allow myself to be my true self and be fully open. I feel like the thing that is stunted the most, which I really hate, is just like my creativity. I used to beg my parents, like when I was about to go to high school, I begged them to send me to this one high school so I could like do dance. There was like it was a creative, like a performing arts high school that just opened up in Chicago. And my parents were like, no, you're not going to a school that just opened. They don't even have any like stats. So like the things that they were focused on, I was not worried about them things. I was trying to tell them like, I literally don't care about school. Yeah. I keep telling y'all like, I'll do school. That could be the happy medium. But also I don't care. Yeah. Like I truly and honestly do not care. So yes, all those things, I feel like my 20s and now I'm trying to see what else. Oh, the receiving end of more abuse.
Because you struggle with saying no, you struggle with boundaries, so you get yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable or you don't like what's happening and you feel like you should speak up, but either you don't want to rock the boat or you just don't want to deal with the repercussions or what could possibly happen, so you don't say nothing.
It's the people-pleasing thing.
It's the people-pleasing thing and the fear and anxiety that comes with rejection and disappointment.
Yeah.
When you tell someone no.
Yeah. I feel like now I'm on the opposite end. Like we talk about doing stuff in extremes.
Yeah.
That's what I was also talking to my counselor about that. Like I'm on the extreme end right now where I'm just like very selfish.
Yeah.
And I feel okay with that because I've been a people pleaser my whole life. So it's like, if I have to be a little selfish right now, that's okay because I have to learn to get to the gray area. But it's black or white before it's gray. I have to do either or. But I think the one that I especially have had a hard time with and I'm still trying to get over is the standing up for myself part. Like when something does not feel good or something is impacting me in a certain way, to be able to speak up. I think a lot of times we fear that it's going to be way worse than what it is. Like if you speak up, you think that everybody's going to just kind of dismiss you or they're going to be rude to you or something, when a lot of times it's not that. Sometimes people just literally don't know that they're making you feel a certain type of way. And if you say it, they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But then the other side for me is like, I'm this overly empathetic person. So then I don't want to make other people feel bad because of how I feel. Yeah. So I just take it. I be like, I guess I'll just take it on the chin. It's okay.
I feel that.
Which is not good.
It's not good at all.
It's not. So where do you feel like you typically see the patterns showing up?
For myself? I think in work, it's like I don't necessarily ask for what I want. In relationships, I had this habit of not knowing how to communicate. And even when I would be question about like, how are you thinking? How are you feeling? I would literally blank out because I'm like, I mean, in trauma response, I'm like, I don't know. Like, why are you
nobody's ever asked me that before. Like, what do you want from me?
What do you want from me? And I literally wouldn't. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, just talk to me. I'm like, say what? Like, what do you want me to say? So I had that habit and it took a minute, but I finally learned. But I didn't know how to express what I wanted and what I needed from people. I thought it would cause too much friction or, I hadn't quite learned that lesson yet. Or I would blow up, keep it in, resentful, and then blow up.
Boom.
Yeah, I used to do that too.
Yeah. I feel like I never really blow up. It's always, I just like will slowly remove myself.
Oh, like detachment?
I just get very detached because I don't want the conflict. And so I just will start to kind of like fade in the black. Like, okay, I was never here. None of this ever happened.
No, I feel that.
It's just so I don't have to deal with the actual conflict. But I feel like it shows up a lot for me, like what you said in my work life. I don't ask for what I want. I don't necessarily demand the respect that I have earned from, the work that I've done or from the position that I hold. Like I don't speak up for myself. So a lot of times I end up, I think in work situations getting mistreated or I just get avoidant, like what I get in relationships where I just kind of like pull myself back from like overextending so that I don't get into situations where people like expect more of me and place like expectations onto me. Like it's better that you think I can do nothing.
I actually hate expectations. I do that at jobs where I'll only do that for a short period of time. Well, I'll do that at jobs where I'll act dumb and I like really don't act like I don't know what's going on so people don't have expectations of me. And then after I feel like I really know the job, then I'll actually start trying because I feel competent enough and I know like, then they'll be like, oh my God, look at you go. But before I act so stupid.
And that's another symptom, like having the imposter syndrome thing, like feeling like, oh, okay, like I'm here, but I also don't really know what's going on. So I'm going to save face by acting like I know absolutely nothing until I do know something.
Pretty much.
Okay. This is we're almost at the closing, but this is just like such a good topic because I feel like a lot of people have dealt with this if you grew up with strict parents.
You know what I thought
which is a lot of Black people.
I thought, what I thought about?
What?
I thought they're the poster children for this.
Who?
PKs.
Man, that's on a different level.
So for a minute,
that's on a totally different level.
I had a type for PKs. That was my type. But I realized like PKs have it bad because they legit feel like they have to, and they do have to live a double life in order to like survive.
They do, and that's why a lot of them end up going buck wild.
Because it leads to this impulsiveness. It's like you can only restrain yourself so much from like being your authentic self, and then they're like wildly impulsive.
Yeah, because they're not really allowed to fall down and make mistakes because the mistakes that they make also impact their family or it's just
like it's not just you.
It's like
everybody.
Almost
it's
political.
It is political. It's
He said almost. It is.
I have seen it firsthand, y'all. I had real experience with it. It's
I just can't
absolutely
imagine.
Political.
I cannot imagine.
I've seen it. Really does crumble the mind. My ex was fucked. He still is fucked up. Because he's still in the environment. I'm like, just get out.
That's so sad.
It's like a cult. Just get out.
Not a like a cult.
Just get out.
I'm so weak.
I feel so bad for him.
Okay, so wait. In what ways has being the good kid held you back in your adult life? I think we talked about a couple.
I mean, learning to deal with my anxiety of rejection and fear of being discarded or not good enough, dealing with self-esteem issues, learning boundaries later than I feel like most people. Actually, I'm starting to realize like we're all learning boundaries from the same time.
We are constantly learning boundaries. We are because it's new. Like when we were kids, our parents weren't talking about freaking boundaries with people and all that stuff.
I can't wait to teach. You know what? In some ways, I'm very excited to be a parent because I feel like I am equipped. Anyways, you are. Learning how to cope or not really learning how to cope well.
Oh, that's good.
Because of the extremes and the impulsiveness and the double life that I had to live. Let me think. I already said struggle making choices. Heavy on that one because I still struggle with that shit.
Making choices?
Yeah. I think that's it. Oh, fear of control or even the dynamic of control that started. And that comes from like, struggle with making choices because it's all like they make the choices for you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. That's all I got.
Damn. Okay, mine. I constantly feel like an imposter.
Hello.
Like I have to really make myself feel like I deserve to be in spaces. Yeah. And that's really difficult.
Gotta hype yourself up.
It's almost, and it's every space. And that's how I know that it's truly imposter syndrome because it's not like there are some spaces that I go to like, oh yeah, this is my jam. Like, no, I constantly feel like that. If I enter a new space, I feel like an imposter.
Yeah.
I choose not to work as hard because of the resentment from working hard for approval in childhood. And so now I have this whole rebellious nature thing where it's like, I don't want to put in any effort because I was forced like to put in so much effort as a child to impress my parents. Like I did not care about school like that. And granted, like, yes, school is important and it teaches you a certain amount of work ethic and whatnot. But I'm just saying I was working to their standards of what they wanted my grades to be and not my own.
Living by someone else's expectations.
Yeah, it was not what I actually wanted. I didn't care if I got a C in math because I was bad at math. So it's like, okay, a C is good enough for me. Like, I'm cool with that. But they're like, no, you should get A's in everything. I'm like, there are some classes that are just difficult. I'm not getting an A in physics. That's not happening.
Right.
Feeling like I have to hide my emotional side and creativity because it was not received well as a child. I was constantly called just hypersensitive about everything. And granted, I didn't necessarily know how to hone in on being an emotional person, which will make me react just like very wildly sensitive. And
you were defensive.
Yeah.
Of your.
Yeah. And my immediate reaction is to cry. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm going to cry now. And so I just have had a really hard time now leaning back into that, like giving myself the space to be emotional in that same way, because I know that it hasn't necessarily been received well. And my creativity hasn't always been received well either, because that was something that I wanted to really embrace as a child. And I was turned away from it because it didn't create the stable life that my family wanted for me and all the things. And so I was told that creativity is more of a hobby than it is a profession. When I'm literally called to be a creative person. So yes,
I was doing everything too.
Doing all the things.
I was doing all the things.
Mm-hmm. And they just make you feel like, oh, it's just a hobby. It's like, no, but what if I want to do this for my life? Like, why don't you empower me to do these things? Okay, and then the last one that I had was just that being discouraged. Discouraged? Hello? What are we talking? What language? Being discouraged by criticism instead of empowered to change.
Oh, I see.
So criticism, unless it's like packaged really nicely and has a bow on it, it doesn't motivate me. I'm not the type of person that's like, I'll show you that I'm better than that. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Bro, that's me. You know, I was talking to someone recently and they're like, yeah, someone tells me I can't do something. I want to prove them wrong. I'm like, really? I'm the opposite. I'm like, shoot, you're probably right.
Yeah.
And I sit mine now.
And I just stop.
That's
and that's
so bad.
Not good.
That is so bad.
It's not good. I have to be able to find ways to package it for myself the way I need to receive it. Like, people are not going to always give you criticism the exact way that you receive it. You have to still be okay with receiving it and trying to push forward.
Yeah. Facts.
I just get very unmotivated to change. Okay. So in closing, so what changes are you committed to making to overcome good child syndrome? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. While you think. Okay. So I said that I think I am in the learning phase of overcoming good child syndrome, which is why at times I feel selfish by setting boundaries that prioritize my own feelings instead of considering how those things will directly impact others. Sometimes it takes learning things in extremes. I talked about this already. In order to find the balance. Once I understand how to prioritize myself, I will be able to be more balanced in my approach to self and others. I am working to enjoy learning and creating structure for my own life because learning or school was the pedestal I was held to as a child. I have had a hard time pushing myself to learn new things, knowing there is a transition period between learning and excelling. This has caused me to stick to the things I'm good at instead of showing myself grace, knowing that I will not be perfect and receive the approval of whoever I am trying to reach at the beginning stages. I have to hold my own approval to a higher standard. And then the last thing is I am trying to not ask for advice when it isn't needed. This is allowing me to build up confidence in myself and my own intuitions. Turning to others is a habit I have developed to discredit my own inclinations.
Okay. I think mine are just the imposter syndrome thing. I still need recovery from that, and then learning to kind of hold myself accountable without someone having to yell at me.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Do you like getting yelled at? Does it help you?
I mean, someone else will hold me accountable, yeah.
Can you yell at yourself?
No, it don't work the same.
You can't put up like Post-it notes yelling at yourself around your house?
You know, after a while, I started ignoring them Post-it notes.
God.
The next thing I was like, they're not even there.
Maybe you should put reminders in your phone. They could just like pop up.
No, I mean, I think discipline just takes repetition, and I just need to keep on the repetition. It's the grit, which is like keeping it going.
The grit.
I mean, I'm getting there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like terrible, but I'm not as good as I would like to be.
Yeah. Which it takes time, like giving yourself the grace, like I said, to learn and grow in it. Okay, so we asked on IG about how you all feel about some things about growing up as the good kid and how it has impacted you as an adult. And we got a decent amount of responses. Yeah. So the question exactly that I asked is, like I said, how has growing up as the good kid impacted you as an adult? So Z.Shanice says, expecting others to also make good judgment and getting frustrated when they don't. So because she grew up as the good child and she has had good judgment, she gets mad when other people don't also have good judgment.
Yeah.
I feel like that has been agitating for me as well, because I'm like the mom friend. So I don't feel like it impacts me as much now. I feel like it impacted me more in college because that was when I actually was impacted by other people making bad choices. I'd be like, what's going on? Like, can we think? Can we use our brains?
I'm dead.
No. Okay.
Rashida Janae __.
Wait, make sure it's the right one because there's two of them.
What do you mean? Oh, you put 2 things, 2 prompts?
I did for both of the episodes.
Okay. She answered recovering people pleaser, the never ending anxiety of failure. She feels it.
Idea Love says dealing with crippling shame and unworthiness till this day about actions that were not good. Oh, I replay events over and over in my head 1,000,001 times. Sade Catrice says that she feels like she can't make any mistakes, like she has to be perfect. And she's very hard on herself. That's real, girl.
That is real. Oh, here's for the people who grew up with siblings. Oh, I lost it.
I know which one you're talking about. I saw it too.
Oh, here it is. Rebecca.Jane. Rebecca.Jane said, my family expects me to take responsibility for all of my siblings and put all their problems on me.
That's wild.
I hear that's a older child thing.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
I do not envy that.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Because them ain't even my kids.
I feel really bad for and maybe we should have somebody on here who has grown up as like an older sibling. Because I feel so bad for the people who had to basically grow up as a third parent or the missing or absent parent. They've had to take that role. I just feel like that's so terrible.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get their childhood. Okay, y'all. So last thing before we go, here are some ways to overcome good child syndrome. So ask for what you want. Those with good child syndrome may have a hard time speaking up. Exercise doing this. The worst they will say is no, and you're back at square one. You will not develop a skill you don't practice, and you will be surprised. More people will say yes than what you think. Stop overly apologizing. Sometimes we say sorry in excess. Everything is not worthy of apologizing. I have that bad. I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry for what, girl? Did nothing happen? Ain't nothing to apologize about. Put yourself first. It's okay to say no. Exercise healthy disagreements. You don't always have to think the same as people. Set boundaries. This includes sharing with those people what your boundaries are. And then when someone oversteps, be sure to share this. If continued, then remove this person from your life. And lastly, you don't have to be liked by everyone. Focus more energy on those that do love you and connect with you than those who do not. Thanks. And some of this was from coaching online, but some of it was my stuff mixed in. But that's all we got. So make sure you all are following us on Instagram. Subscribe to us on YouTube. YouTube is Fill in the Blank Podcast. And on YouTube, if you're listening to this and you're not watching, you should go to YouTube and hit the thumbs up. Leave us a little comment. It's good for us, guys. Like, we need that. Subscribe to the channel if you love us and you want to see us grow. Oh, what? If you want to see us grow and me smash my head into the mic on accident, then go to YouTube. Okay. On the TikTok, we are, it's been a long time. Fill in the Blank Pod. Yeah. Fill in the Blank Pod on the TikTok. On Instagram, we are Fill in the Blank _ My Instagram is it's k.g. It's KAY.G. And Iyanna is
at Iyanna.Amor.
We love you guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.